Well, welcome out there to my show once again. Always a pleasure to be here and always a pleasure to have you out there in the audience. I have a couple of gentlemen. They've been on before, but they tell me 4 or 5 years ago. That's when we had the old set. This is the new set. And of course, this new set has worked out much better. It's easier to get the program started, actually. So, what we're going to be talking about is the Firefighters Museum. It's been a long way in coming, but we're going to get an update, find out what's going on down there. So I want to welcome my two guests, Lieutenant Michael LePage, and your rank?
Retired.
Retired. Firefighter Ken Ledger. So how are things going?
Good. Not bad, Richard.
And well, let's start off. Let us the audience know where the Fire Museum is.
Okay. Well, just a little history. In 2007, we partnered with the Preservation Society of Fall River, and for the 501c3 nonprofit. And since that time, we've been with them up until just recently. We were able to attain our own 501c3 status and our incorporation with the state as well. So we did that, and updating bylaws and things like that. But we still have the good partnership with the Preservation Society. As far as the historic portion of it.
Sort of started off with them.
That's correct.
Like an umbrella, they call it.
That's right. That's right.
Group.
Yep.
And that was basically to, if you raise money, et cetera, it would funnel through their 501c3. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
But now you have your own 501c3, so if you have a fundraiser, raise money, you put it right into your own bank account.
That's right.
Well, we worked with attorney Dave Dennis, who put us in touch with a young lady out of New Bedford.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Helped us write the 501c3.
Lydia.
And it seemed to go through with flying colors. It seemed to be a pretty rapid process.
Fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Well, it's actually a little easier now. They streamlined the process a little bit.
Yeah, you fill out that Form 1023.
Right.
About 20 pages of not much.
So,
But that was big for us.
Yeah, that was.
It was what?
That was big for us to get that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It opens up the door to a lot of other opportunities, other grants, matching grants, different things like that. That's one of the first things on the list of requirements would be a 501c3 status.
Yeah,
so.
Bigger donations.
Yes.
Tax write-offs, hopefully, or possibly to donors. So you get the 501c3, but where is the? Let the people know, where is the Fire Museum?
Sure. The Fire Museum building proper is at 1181 North Main Street. It's right adjacent, it's just north of the New Morton Middle School. It's an old fire station, 1874, correct? 1874? 73 or 74?
73.
Anawan number 6 is the official name of the building. They were all given Indian names, and Kenny knows more about that than I do.
Horse-drawn?
Horse-drawn,
Exactly,
yep.
yeah.
It actually was designed for a steamer.
And the horses were kept right there?
Yes, that's correct.
So you could, get them...
You can actually still see where the horse stalls were. The hayloft is still there, even though it was a modern fire station up until its closing. You can still see all the amenities that were in place back in the day when it was a horse-drawn station.
So the firefighters at that time not only fought fires, but they had to feed the horses too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Clean out the stalls.
It's funny to read the old logbooks where they talk about the different duties that they had and how many whatever it was, containers of hay that they had to feed the horse and stuff like that, all the different duties.
And they slept at the station at that time?
Yes.
Yeah, so it was 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Right. That station, when it was built, it was just right at the time where they were just starting to get rid of the horse-drawn engines. The steamer that was there was newly acquired, and the horses, there's actually in the back of the building, there's a horse stall in the back, is still there. And there's a hayloft above on the second floor. The horses were kept downstairs, and I also understand that the police department also quartered horses there as well, because the building is separated in half. The fire station's on one side, and there's a firewall between the two buildings, and the police substation is to the south of the building. And so there was police officers in there at the time as well. So
Now, what is the official name of your organization?
the official name of our organization is Fall River Fire Museum, Inc.
And,
Recently got incorporated.
okay. I guess my next question is, now, do you have a board of directors?
Yes.
Yes.
How many, you don't have to give me the names, but
Sure.
how many on a board?
Well, we were with the Preservation Society. We were a committee under their board, and I was the chairman. When we broke apart, actually we became incorporated, it was required that we had to have a board of directors. We had to have our own bylaws. So I was nominated president, so I accepted the title. I keep trying to pass it off to Kenny, but he doesn't want to.
So you're still the president?
I'm the president.
Ken,
yeah.
you have an office?
Secretary.
Kenny's the
Secretary. Oh, that's
secretary.
important.
I have a vice president, I have a treasurer, and we fluctuate between 8 to 10 on the executive board.
Do you have membership?
We had membership, however, we need to revisit the membership
So
because
if someone
under
out
the-
there says, well, I'd like to join, can they join?
They can very shortly. Under the statutes that we learned when we went for our own 501c3, I believe a lot of it's changed. And you can't really have memberships under your articles of organization. They have to be under fundraising. So we had it under there, so it needs to be moved. So we can't really call it memberships. We need to call it something a little different. So we're working with that right now. So we're sort of in like a 6-month holding pattern with that. But we definitely want to revisit that because that was a source of revenue for us, as well as the fundraisers that we do.
Or you could have like friends of the museum?
That's correct. Well, actually, what we're thinking about doing was perhaps even having like, instead of, silver, gold, bronze kind of thing, membership, maybe firefighter, lieutenant, captain, chief. So it actually encourages people to move up the rank, up the ladder, so to speak. Just a little
paying more
twist on
money.
it. Sure,
Exactly.
well, paying more money. Well, hey, you got to pay money to take promotional exams, so.
No, you don't want them walking around the street with a uniform.
No.
Now, okay, it's there. Is it open to the public?
It is not open to the public. We are trying to do something similar to the Children's Museum. We're trying to push for a soft opening. Actually, in the back of the fire apparatus garage or bay area, where the horses used to be kept. First floor, there's a small area back there that we would like to have our display area, and that'll be the soft opening. So we're concentrating on that. There's a few issues with the floor, structural issues we're dealing with, and we need to get some emergency lighting in there. Fire alarm set up in there that's not currently in there, before we can start receiving visitors.
Now, the building obviously was owned by the city of Fall River.
It still is.
Okay, it still is.
Yes.
Now, is there any prospect in the future that the building will actually be turned over to your organization, or maybe you don't want that to happen?
Well,
Right now, we share space on the police side is the animal control officer.
Oh,
So they
so
still
they're
have, the
there.
city still has a presence on the police side.
Now, do they have animals in there? Do they shelter?
Yes, like maybe overnight or something like that.
Oh,
Not
temporary,
long-term,
yeah.
right, it's a temporary shelter. But yeah, we share space with the animal control division.
Where the police station used to be?
Correct.
yeah,
That's
what we have
Now, you still have the
currently-
jail cells in there?
Yes, they are.
All right, so
the
you guys
basement.
are gonna behave or else.
Yeah. I'll tell you an interesting story about that in a second, but getting back to the building itself, we just, I won't say just, maybe within the past year or so, we entered into a lease agreement with the city of Fall River. Currently, prior to that, we had a license agreement to occupy the space. Now we have a lease agreement. We have a 30-year lease agreement with the city to occupy the space. And our
You make
portion,
payments?
we made a payment.
No, do you make, I mean, part of the lease?
Yes.
You're required to make some payments?
That's correct. And as part of our obligation of the lease is to restore the building.
Restore it?
Yes,
Now, that's a big task.
that's a
Sure
big
is.
task. We're going to take it, we put in for CPA money, the very first round of CPA money for 2015. We put in, and we're awarded one of, I think, 13 applications who were graciously
And
awarded.
What did you get?
We got a little over $24,000. So, no, I think it was closer to 24.
Well, that wasn't a good award.
I'm sorry,
because there's
21.4.
talking about the CPA, there's been a lot of controversy about their awards.
Yes.
They gave public money. Obviously, the CPA money is public money. It's tax money. I want to, educate, let the audience know. And that was this last round. Some of that money was given to a private developer, and that's not, I don't think, what people expected. And also, there was additional money, $192,000. I was told it was given to put an air conditioning system in a building. Now, your project seems to be what people would expect.
Our project, we've got an architect on board, a local gentleman, who helped us along the correct path. And that is, we believe we did it right. We hired a historic architect, which is what was awarded to us. Our application was simply, it was two-part. It was to hire an architect, a historic architect, do a feasibility study on the building.
Like a survey.
Go through the whole building, what it needs, and then
Structural.
and then prioritize it, so that now we have a course of action. We have a plan.
Do certain things first.
That's correct.
In other words, maybe stabilize the building.
That's right. And then part of it was emergency repairs, which we didn't receive funding for, unfortunately. I wish we had, but
And what type of?
we've got open jets, we've got pigeons getting in
Soffits.
there, we've got
yeah.
windows, we got weather getting in.
To have volunteers, firemen, firefighters.
We have quite an extensive list of people that have offered to help us as we get certain projects going where that's within their area of expertise. If they know electricity or plumbing or
Yeah.
carpentry and things like that, they've offered to, as we have a project going, to come in and help us out. So we do have a bank of a pool of talent that's ready to help us.
Now, it's a fairly big building.
Oh, yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And there's parking there. Now, what would be, if tomorrow you had a bundle of dough, what would be one of the first things you'd want to do?
Well, if we had a bundle of dough tomorrow morning, that would be great.
But like a first thing, you
Well, we would certainly point to the feasibility study.
You need a
And
new
we would-
roof?
Yep, whatever it said, the first priority, we would go with that and just go right on down the line.
We had some bricks and mortar issues. We have some windows that need to be weather tight. We had issues like that we wanted to, that we had applied for CPA money for those things as well.
Yeah.
And we're grateful that we got the grant for the feasibility study, but we had put in for much more than that, but part of it was the emergency repairs to button up the building to prevent further deterioration.
Now, as you go along and restore the building, are you going to keep it in the same mode as it was actually built? In other words,
Yes.
preserve the building?
Exactly.
We actually-
We'd like to restore it.
Has the Preservation Society offered any money, in a sense?
No, but getting back to your question about restoring the building, there are certain guidelines. As soon as you take one penny of CPA money, you are now held bound and to the state guidelines for historic restoration. There's guidelines that set forth, so you can't just put in a Home Depot window or something like
Yeah,
that.
no aluminum siding.
No,
Right,
and
exactly.
so everything has to be done historically accurate, even to the point where if we need to put a new roof on the building, it has to be slate
Slate, that's
with
tough.
copper
That's tough. yeah.
flashing
That's
and
expensive.
everything. So,
No exemption.
nope, none.
We'd
Now-
also like to restore the hose tower that was removed over the years, and there's a couple of other, what do you call them,
The cupolas, yeah.
that were taken off at times. We'd like to replace all that back to its.
Now, the state historical, I don't know if they call it a commission or what,
Mm-hmm.
but is there money, in other words, have you applied for any kind of state money? Now that you're a 501c3, you've got this special status.
That was the trigger.
Are you applying for any state money or even federal money?
No, we
Or money
can't.
from, sometimes big corporations are interested in preservation.
Right, once the plan, again, the whole thing is the feasibility study is the hinge. So once we get the study and we see you know, what we have, we can go to a bank and say, geez, you know, how can you help us out? And then they might say, well, we'll help you with the windows, or we'll help, depending upon the dollar.
Well,
or
there were
amount.
grants. I mean, there was, I think, $100,000, I think some lady left to the Marine Museum.
Right.
That's,
Yeah,
that's very helpful.
That's good.
Sure. Well, the big thing that was holding us back from applying for things like that was
that
the 501c3. Now
Well,
that
when
we've
did you
got
get the
that in our-
501c3?
That
When?
was just what,
Oh,
3 months
within-
ago,
yeah,
2 months
not-
ago?
yeah,
Okay,
two-
not
2
long
months,
ago.
not
Exactly.
much.
This
Yeah.
is very new.
So you'd be in a position to start to send letters out.
Correct.
right.
Having, holding major fundraisers.
That's right. And as far as the grants are concerned, I know CPA, they like to see folks go after grants to match the CPA money. We, again, couldn't do that. Our hands were tied because we didn't have the feasibility study. So I'm being told by our architect that we should have it in time for the February final application, so that we can put in for some more money, for CPA money for 2016, the 2016 round, which we desperately need. And again, to your point, it is a city building. It's on the National Historic Register. It's in an Olmsted Park. It's in a historic district. It's
It
on
meets
North
all
Main
the
Street.
criteria that people voted thinking that money would go to.
Right.
When they said, we'll impose a tax on ourselves. That's what they did. They voted to impose a tax on themselves.
Right.
So that money that they pay in their taxes would go to the CPA fund, and in return, that money would go to projects that you gentlemen have.
And we take that seriously because I totally agree with everything you said. We're going to do our due diligence to make sure that the money is used wisely on our project and not spent foolishly, because we want to see this happen. We want to give this back to the city.
Now, how long have you occupied the building? I mean, how did this come about? Let's start. How did the idea of having a firefighters museum come about? Sitting over a cup of coffee somewhere, and
It actually came through the firefighters union. It came up as a suggestion during a union meeting, and it's grown from there.
And then the Lambert administration at the time,
so
that
it's
building.
going back a number of years.
Oh,
what,
yes.
10 years.
Go all the way back to the Lambert administration. The building was vacant because
Yeah.
the fire department moved out of there in 2002. And so it was right around that time that the Lambert administration offered if we were interested in the building to the union, possibly used as a hall and also to quarter the union. And they didn't have much interest in it, and I believe that's what the discussions
a
that Kenny.
union meeting place.
Yes.
Right, it would include that, like
Yeah.
on the police side, because they didn't have the dog officer there yet.
Yeah.
So they talked about having.
Well,
using-
is that still feasible in the future, where the firefighters union would meet there and maybe pay a small fee?
It is possible. It is definitely possible.
Now, I would surmise, and you can let me know, and the audience, that once the building is stabilized, will you be acquiring artifacts?
Oh,
and
yes.
placing in the building,
Oh,
so
yes.
people could, if they come into town, they don't need to go to see the Lizzie Borden bed and breakfast. They might, well, they could, but they could stop off at the firefighters museum to see some of the old things.
Right. We actually have a 1937 Seagrave ladder truck. We recently moved the 1936 Maxim pumper, which was housed at the Globe Fire Station. And they recently had an issue there. I don't know if you recall, they were doing some work on the floor, so they had to temporarily close the station. When they did that, we relocated engine 11, like I said, which is that 1936 Maxim pumper, down to the museum. So we have a ladder truck and a pumper. We've also, it's not currently housed at the museum, but we also received a 1951 Maxim pumper from the estate of the late Alan Jarabek.
Oh, and how did he acquire that?
He had bought it at a city auction.
Oh, I see.
And he actually had done some work to it. He took out the hose bed and he put in some car bench seats back there, had them all upholstered. And his idea was he was going to use it in the parades and put the family kids back there and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and put it in parades. And I think he did that a couple of times, but for a while it was stored at his Brayton Avenue property. And unfortunately, when Mr. Jarabek passed away, the family contacted the museum to see if we would be interested in acquiring that truck. And we certainly were. It's part of the Fall Rivers history.
Yeah.
So we did that. That's currently housed right now down on the waterfront at the Railroad Museum. But our hope is to eventually have that as part of the stock inside the museum.
Now, let's say in the future the museum is open. There's going to be expenses involved to
Sure.
keep or maintain it. So
Yes.
once you get it the way you want to have it, how are you going to raise? Will it? Let me ask you this: will it be open where people can go in and buy things?
We have items for a gift shop. Let's put it that way. We have T-shirts, hats, different things like that we have available.
Do you have that now?
Yes.
All
And
right.
for a donation, let's say a $15 donation, they can get a T-shirt. For a $10 donation, they can get a baseball cap.
And is that at the museum now?
Yes.
Well, what we've been doing since 2007 was, I'd like to say, we took the museum on the road. It's a traveling museum. We've been as far as Portsmouth, I think even further than that. And we take our exhibit and we've had it on the waterfront, and we put the donation jar out there and we sell some of our wares. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it was the 7th annual this year?
Yes.
Fire apparatus show we do on the waterfront every June.
Now, you've had clam boils to
Yes, we
raise
have.
money, is that
Just
correct?
recently had one.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, what our goal is to have the membership, or the new membership style, pay for the bills, pay the running bills. And then the fundraisers will generate revenue to restore the building.
I see. Now, firefighters in the city of Fall River, members,
Mhm.
you think eventually they'll all become members?
I wish.
I
At least, you know,
I don't see why not.
You know, a nominal fee or
Sure.
whatever, you know, so that would be maybe a small source of income.
Mhm.
But again, a pool of people who, you know, would go down to the old station and do some work.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's several ideas we've had. We talked about possibly having maybe birthday parties there.
Oh, yeah.
Or even
yeah.
sleepovers for the kids. I think they'd get a charge out of sleeping in
Yeah,
the old
like the-
bunks and stuff
the
like that.
battleship.
Exactly.
Like,
So on that idea.
Slide down the pole, maybe?
Yeah. And then there's another source of revenue that might seem a little bit strange, but we've already done one, is we had a paranormal group go through the building, and they claim it is haunted.
Oh, wow.
So, but some of these companies, you can actually charge them to come in and do their setup work. So, you know, again, it's another, and it's good for the tour.
Well, how about the historical aspect of that particular station? Has that particular station over the, I mean, going back many, many decades, has it participated in any, you might say, spectacular or historic fire in the city of Fall
Oh,
River?
absolutely.
What was it? I don't recall when you had the Fall River fire, but was that station in existence?
Yes, there's
It was
well,
for the
and-
1928 fire, definitely.
yeah, and there's
So
been
that station was there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. There's been several major fires in Fall River, but in that neighborhood, they had the several mill fires in that neighborhood. And then, of course, what Kenny alluded to is the 1928 fire downtown. They had a 1916 fire downtown Fall River, which was also
19 what?
16.
16.
Oh,
That took out
1916, yeah.
you know, a couple of blocks downtown business district, which certainly is well after 1874. So
Yeah.
So that station was in existence, so.
How about maybe another aspect in regards to personnel who worked there? You know, did you have, do you know if there was a firefighter who was a great ball player or, you know,
Well, one of the distinctions we know of is that at the time that it closed, it was either the oldest or one of the oldest active stations in the country at the time.
in the country? And when
Yes.
did it close?
2002.
Wow, that's not long ago.
No.
No.
13 years ago.
Yeah. And at that time, it was, if it wasn't number one, it was between the top three of the oldest active stations where they still had apparatus and firefighters responding. There's a lot of older stations, but they weren't being used as a fire station.
They had
This one was
closed,
still
yeah.
being used as a fire
Yeah.
station.
We did do research on your question, and we came across an article. I don't remember the date, but they used to do fire musters in North Park. And engine company number 6, or hose 6 at the time, of the steamer, they actually won first place.
Now, do you have any old pictures sometimes?
Yes, we do.
We actually have a picture of the steamer that was housed in there, the original
Yeah,
steamer.
how about personnel?
Some.
Yes.
We have some. And
I
we've
imagine-
actually contacted, some people have come out of,
Well,
and
let
contacted
them know
us.
right now, families who had relatives that work down there, they could contact your organization, and if they have some memorabilia, pictures,
Absolutely. Our
That's
phone
exactly
number
what
is
happened.
they could
We got in
con-
touch with a family that I believe
you go up on a wall.
the captain was one of the, he was the oldest active captain at that station, and they had memorabilia and things like that that they wanted, and his story that they wanted to provide to us. That's one of the things we want to do, is have places where we might have a photograph or some memorabilia, badges and things like that, but actually have something where when a person is going through the museum, they'd be able to press a button, let's say, and see a video or hear an audio recording of that person's story
Oh,
and
yeah.
what they meant to the station.
Yeah.
Can I just give out the number real quick for that?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
It's 508-674 1700 is the museum number. There's an answering machine there.
Okay, repeat that number again.
508-674 1700.
Or contact Lieutenant.
You can Google us as well. We also have a Facebook page.
All right, we're really, we're getting down to the end. I want to let the audience know that I've been told come October 1st, I won't be on this program because I'm running for the Fall River Charter Commission, and based on some rules that they told me about, I'm not going to be able to host a show until after the election. So someone hopefully will be here in my place to carry the show on. We'll work out the details of that, but I will not be able to host the program, and I know for some people that's going to be a heartbreaker. Okay, gentlemen, thank you for being on the show, and look,
Thank you for
let
having
me
us.
know future developments. Give me, contact me. I'll have you come back on.
Thank you,
Super.
Richard.
Okay, and thank you out there for watching. And remember, next this Tuesday coming, it's election day in Fall River. So get out there and vote for the candidate you think should be in office. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Well, that was good. We did a lot of good information out.
Yes.